Welcome to the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility.
Welcome to the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility with immigration attorney Iskra Panteva. Iskra is the founder of Panteva Law Group in Chicago, where she helps companies, entrepreneurs, and highly skilled professionals navigate the complexities of U.S. business immigration. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about the L-1B visa and how employers use it to transfer employees with specialized knowledge to the United States. Ms. Iskra, welcome back.
Hi, Ivan. Thank you for having me.
So, Iskra, what is that L-1B visa and how does it differ from the L-1A category companies often use for managers and executives?
Yeah, this is very specialized, kind of a niche category. It is not very well known, and it has been used sporadically by the employers. But it is definitely a different type of visa, and it is for people that are kind of a special workers, like people that have a critical role within the companies, and they are able to come to the United States and um, you know either establish a new office or work in an already established company. And they have this specialized knowledge that they bring to the table, right? So this is a little bit different than just managers or executives. Managers and executives usually tend to be on the, we are always looking at their organizational chart. We are always looking at whether or not they're on the top of the organizational chart. Here, we really don't care about the organizational chart. We just want to make sure that we are bringing somebody that has a very specific knowledge of the company and its products or services.
Yeah, so the L-1 visa category focuses on employees with specialized knowledge. How is that defined in immigration rules?
So specialized knowledge for under the immigration law is a knowledge about processes of the petitioners' organizations, about their products, services, research, equipment, technology. Sometimes it is a specialized knowledge related to their, the application of their products on the international markets. Also, it can be an advanced level knowledge of organizations, processes, or procedures. So it is very, as I said, it's a very unique type of visa. You need to look into specifics of the petitioner, what is the job title of the employee, and make sure that this is something that is not readily available on the market, right? So these are not this is not a knowledge that can be easily trained, or it can be taken from the U.S. employees.
What types of employees or roles are typically strong candidates for that L1B transfer?
Yeah, we usually see a different type of industries that are involved in this. Um, Very common, obviously, we have an IT and technology companies that are really into L1B visas. Also, engineering and manufacturing. Obviously, if there is a manufacturing plant, or if there is a manufacturing process here in the United States, the companies will tend to bring people with expertise in their manufacturing processes or products or tools or technologies. Another one that is very common is the one that is related to consulting and professional services also. And finally, we see a lot of specialized knowledge in different specialized roles, like in IT systems or proprietary software development platforms, things of that nature that are very specific roles for this type of visa.
So how important is the relationship between the U.S. company and the foreign entity when using the L-1B category?
Yeah, I mean, as always, L1B visa is a visa which is always related to two different companies, right?
Hmm.
One that is in the United States and the one that is outside of the United States. So we definitely will need to have two companies we'll definitely need to have a qualifying relationship between those two companies. And we definitely want to make sure that, that there is a need here in the United States for the position, as well as that the employee has that kind of specialized knowledge based on the experience that they have had. So usually they have to be working for the overseas company at least 1 year out of the last 3 years before they enter the United States. There is very specific, there is nitty gritty on this, but basically they have to have worked at least for a year, if not more, in order for them to qualify.
What kinds of company-specific knowledge tend to support an L1B petition?
We, just to kind of get away a little bit from the, from the theory here, we are working with a lot of companies that need employees that are very, very, very familiar with their projects and their products and their tools. So a lot of times, what we see from our clients is they are bringing people that are related. They have an expertise in tooling, for example. If there is if we're talking about manufacturing, they have experience in quality control. So even if there is a U.S. workers that are employed here, the quality control still needs to be kind of managed by a company overseas, as they have the expertise on a local level there. Another thing that has been very, very common is procedures, right? They a lot of times the companies will bring somebody that is familiar with the procedures and how they're implementing certain processes. That can be, that is very relatable to manufacturing processes, but it can be relatable to, consulting as well as IT. Those are, we always make sure that the companies are bringing people that are really, really important, and they cannot be easily substituted here in the United States. And they cannot be, the U.S. workers cannot be trained easily. So these are kind of, a lot of the companies and the employees that we bring here in the United States. Another issue is safety, obviously, especially when we have manufacturing companies. The safety is a major concern. We want to be, we want to bring people that are specializing in safety. So obviously, if you have a new or existing products or projects here in the United States, they can cover up, and they can kind of ensure that there is a safety processes in place as established by the parent organization, usually overseas, right?
So, can you share an example of when an employer used the L1B category to bring in someone with that specialized expertise?
Yeah, so we have companies that have branches, right? They are usually headquartered somewhere overseas. They're trying to invest here in the United States, and they have usually a contract with a company, with the U.S. company, or they have a contract with, you know, sometimes the government. And when this is happening, they need to obviously service that contracts. They need to make sure that they are following through the procedures. And this is what a lot of times what happens. They are bringing people from overseas. They can go through the contracts and they can get this on a timely basis, right? That they can kind of whatever they have promised in the contract, that they can fulfill it. And then they want to also make sure that having not only people that are, recently hired, but also experts. So a lot of times, you will have a headquarter. The headquarter will bring those specialized knowledge people, so they can kind of speed up the process and make sure that the contracts are fulfilled. Or they want to make sure that they trained the employees here in the United States to all the procedures that are applicable for the company overseas, right? So this kind of they are kind of a knowledge carriers, right? They are bringing this knowledge, that specialized knowledge. They are training the U.S. workers here in the United States. And a lot of times, they will need to leave and go back to the headquarters. So this is how that works. Sometimes it can be for a very short period of time, right? It can be for like 6 months or a year. Sometimes they will need to be here for a longer period of time, especially if the contracts are bigger, or if we are, if there is not a lot of training that is available here in the United States on those processes.
So, how does that L1B visa fit into a company's broader hiring or maybe their expansion strategy?
Sometimes it's just something that we just discussed, right? The company has
Right.
a foreign company will have a contract here in the United States. They need to bring some employees so they can make sure that they can fulfill the contract. A lot of times, it can be also they might have a problem with hiring. So if they don't have enough U.S. workers to support, like to support them and to support the company, and the processes and their activities here in the United States. Also, that can be another option. We have seen L1B also being a substitute for different types of visas like H1B. So if the company is trying to hire foreign workers, they cannot bring them on H1B. Sometimes they can use the L1B as well as a kind of a substitute for an H1B. But the requirements are very clear on L1B. You have to have a specialized knowledge. You have to have that experience overseas that is very unique and not readily available in the United States.
So, what are some of the common challenges employers face when trying to qualify, an employee for that L1B status, Israel?
Well, this is one of the main problems that we've had with USCIS, right?
Right.
We are always trying to convince them that these are specific processes to the companies, right? They are not processes that are very readily available. And that can be sometimes subjective. A lot of times we are having um, USCIS is questioning that. Is this knowledge something that the U.S. workers can gain within a training of 1 month or month and a half or 2 months?
Right.
This is something that they can always try to question. Is this something that uh, do they really have this kind of specialized knowledge, right? Does the employee has a specialized knowledge? And also, is this related to a proprietary information, or it's just something that anybody can come in, a software engineer can come in and start working on it and will not have a problem, moving forward. A lot of times advanced knowledge on processes is also very confusing kind of concept, and it can also be very subjective. So it's not like, okay, this is I tend to think of for example, executives and managers a little bit like we have a little bit more of objective kind of standards. With the specialized knowledge, it's a little bit more subjective, because how much training do you need for the U.S. worker to actually get this specialized knowledge? How much training the L1B employee should have in order for them to get that specialized knowledge? With the executives or managers, even, it's a little bit more straightforward. You look at the organizational chart, you look at how, who they are managing, where they are at the organizational chart, and it's a little bit more visual and straightforward, right? Specialized knowledge is something that you need to prove with training materials, with work products, with a lot of technical documents that can be sometimes very difficult to kind of to manage, to review, to even to kind of present them on on a regular basis to USCIS officers that might not have that kind of manufacturing expertise or IT expertise or consulting expertise. So it can be challenging. Yeah, those visas are not easy to be presented and approved. Yes.
So, to close things out, when a company is deciding between that L1A and the L1B, what factors usually influence that decision?
So L1A tend to be a little bit longer in terms of duration. Um, Also, not everybody will have a specialized knowledge, even though they are an L1A employee. So if they're an executives or managers, they might not be in specialized knowledge employees. So, these categories, they tend to be different, right? Um, if you're an engineer and you don't have a management experience or you don't have um, an executive experience, obviously we will be looking into whether or not we can qualify that employee as a specialized knowledge employee. But keep in mind, L1A is always more advantageous to get. It's usually longer. There is a path towards a green card. So if you decide that you want to keep that employee for a longer period of time, you can always try to obtain a green card for them for permanent employment. And then, and obviously it can give a little bit more advantages. L1B is 2 years shorter, so it's usually 3 plus 2 years of employment here in the United States. And then you don't really have an extension, automatic extension, or you don't even have a translation kind of towards immigrant visa. So if the employer wants to keep the employee for a longer period of time, it might be a problem, right? So those considerations will always play when the employer decides whether or not they're going to go through L1A or L1B. Most of the time, L1A is the better route if there is specialized knowledge there and executive managerial experience. But obviously, not everybody has that, right? So we need to figure out what do they have, and then based on the advantages and disadvantages of the category, then we pick and choose which one is better suited for the employee.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Ms. Iskra.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That's it for today's episode of the Panteva Perspective, Corporate Immigration and Global Mobility. To learn more about Iskra Panteva and the work she does with employment-based immigration, visit panteva.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, and share this episode with someone who may benefit from the information. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.